Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 242. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge in the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. I'm laughing giddily because Sean's been losing his voice. We recorded so much tonight. So says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of You-Know.
Man, I was prepping to actually do the intro because I'm like, how is his voice going to hold up for it? I'm thinking, okay, what is Sean saying?
I had like a little bit of pop left in the can. I'm like, okay, can this get me through it? I think so. I had a whole different Hawk-related one that I was going to use this week because we're going to be talking, Myron Rumsey's joining us from Blog of Oa, and we're going to be talking about Brightest Day, the most recent issue of Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern Emerald Warriors. So while we're going to be that's my cat. That's Belle. My cat, Belle, my oldest cat, is obsessed with coming into the office. I don't know why, especially with you being in here. Because you think she would hear your voice, because she usually runs like crazy from you. Yeah. But no, right about this time is when Belle starts beating on the door.
And you may be able to hear it.
Yeah, it's great. That's a cat. That's not awesome. A person. If you can hear that in the background, I don't know if you can. But that pounding is a cat. I don't think my wife or I can pound on the door like that. But that's funny. So we got a great episode planned for us, and we've already recorded it, obviously, at this point. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. This is it. This is the month. Brightest Day 23 and 24 are solicited. Brightest Day number 24 looks like it's going to be an oversized book. It's $4.99 regularly, 40% off, only $2.99. So it's a great chance to get that book at a discount. And there's a variant edition of that available for $5. There's actually a variant edition of issue number 23, which is $4. I should note that issue 23 is $2.99 regularly, 40% off, only $1.79. So we're going to finally find out who the White Lantern is going to be, or who that chosen one is going to be. It looks like issue 24 is going to be where that's going to happen. And then Generation Lost is also ending that month, so those two weekly books are going to be coming to a conclusion. It's interesting that those are ending. I saw the solicits for Flash issue 12 as well, at the same time that FlashPoint is getting ready to begin, because it looks like the next month then we'll be getting solicits for FlashPoint. So, wow, we're right at the point for that next big event. I don't know if Brightest Day is tying directly into FlashPoint or not, but we're going to find out. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen there. Two great events so far in that Generation Lost and Brightest Day. So I'm going to be happy and sad to see them ending. I'm happy just because I want to read where the conclusion of this series is going to be. But that's dcbservice.com for that. And then over at InStockTrades.com, if you haven't been reading Brightest Day, the hardcover's out, and it's volume 1. It collects issues 0 through 7, and it's regularly $29.99. You can get it at 38% off, only $18.59, and it's a 256-page hardcover. And I'm a big fan of these collected hardcover editions, especially, if it's something that I haven't read. I really like to have them in that format and just sit down and read all the issues together. So if you haven't been reading Brightest Day, it's a great way to check out the event. And you can check out some of our commentary this episode as far as why you should be reading Brightest Day if you're not. So thank you, dcbservice.com and InStockTrades.com for continued support of the show. Also want to shout out everybody who's been participating in the Sensei Super Snuggie caption contest. That's come to a conclusion. That was at the end of January. We ended that off. Jim and I are going to be talking this week as far as who our contest winners are. We're going to be picking 3 winners. I wanted Jim to be here for that. He was here for this recording that we did, but we got to the point where it was the end of the evening. We didn't have a chance to sit down, and we didn't want to rush through this because we had listeners who really spent a lot of time sending in a number of entries. So we really wanted to sit down and look at all of them and pick our favorites. And this is going to be a very, very hard decision to make. So thank you for everybody who participated. What we'll do is after we make our decision, for our next episode, we will announce everybody who won, grand prize and then first and second runner-up. And then I will post all of the entries up on the website. I'm going to try to set up a contest section on the website where all of our previous contest entries from here on out will be kept, so that way people can look and see past contests and things like that. Because I think those are always fun for people to see, okay, what have they done before? Because I'm actually going to put together a contest for our 5-year anniversary, which is going to be the weekend of C2E2. So that's the C2E2 convention, and if you're thinking about going there, it's c2e2.com, and we're going to have representation there the whole weekend, and that's a big 5-year anniversary for us, and I want to thank you guys for continuing to support the show. James? What kind of a podcast are we? Because I don't think my voice will last for it.
We are a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
What was the name of that lantern?
Hold on. I hate you. I really do.
This will make sense to you when you listen to the episode.
Amen. How about that?
Let's get you to some lantern chat.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
I'd like to welcome back to the show, longtime friend of the show, Myron Rumsey from the blog of OA. Welcome back, Myron.
Thanks, Sean and Jim. It's great to be back.
Myron, one of the things I wanted us to kick off talking about was, in the most recent issue of Time Master's Vanishing Point, at the end of the series, they have, once again, another chalkboard. But this is one that Rip Hunter didn't write any of them to. So it won't spoil the ending so much of Vanishing Point, but it does give us clues to what may be going on in the future. So I'd like to just kind of go through them and see if you guys have any ideas what this could possibly mean. The first one is, why did it have to be Bruce? So what do you think that means? I know one of the teasers for FlashPoint is that he's going to be running the Wayne Casino or something like that. So what does this mean for Bruce?
What if that fateful day in Crime Alley, it wasn't Bruce's parents who were killed, but little Bruce Wayne?
Oh, wow. And so what if it's not Bruce that's running?
So what if it's not Bruce?
Oh, yeah.
Because that thing was, he is going to run Wayne Casino. So when the Flying Grayson Circus arrives in town, and his parents are killed, as they do, the Waynes say, hey, we lost a son, we'll take in Dick Grayson, and we'll raise him, and then as Dick Grayson grows up in the Wayne family, maybe he takes over Wayne Casino, maybe he sees the injustice, and he becomes a Batman-type figure.
But it's Dead Man and the Flying Graysons. Does that mean, boy, I guess I don't see how that relates.
Or is Thomas Wayne the new Batman, and rather than seeking justice, he's more out for vengeance and more of a street-level Punisher-type character as a result of the death of his son.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those. I like when we have these kind of intriguing ones where I have no idea what that means. Shazam. Now, what's interesting about the Shazam is each letter has an exclamation point afterwards. So I don't know, does that mean we're going to see the gods associated with those letters? There's a recent Shazam one-shot, which is leading into Titans. And there's been some building in Brightest Day and in Titans to perhaps the return of Black Adam, or at least Isis. So does this mean we're going to possibly get a Billy and Mary back, or are we going to... I don't know. I don't know what that means. Other than if the exclamation points on each letter, I think there's a significance there.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at it as maybe there are 6 different beings. Each one calls out a name of a different god. Or different, S, H, A, Z, A, and M, and there are 6 of them.
So there'll be actually 6 different beings with powers?
Yeah, and each one has a code word that's representative of one of the letters.
Oh, okay. Associated with the guy, I could see that being as well. I don't have any...
Or it could just mean you shout it really loud.
Emphasizing each letter along the way?
Shazam!
No, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think that works.
The outsider is in.
Or maybe it's a cheerleader and she does each letter individually, like, give me an S.
Wow. How to wreck a universe.
That's why we're not in charge.
No. Well, I wouldn't. Wait, would any of us really approve that? I think we'd know better. The outsider is in. Reference to the insider, reference to who's the outsider. Alfred was the outsider way back in the day. I don't know. Is this one of the outsiders in the current outsiders group that they're talking about?
Well, one of the minis is called Flashpoint the Outsider.
Right.
So I wonder, who knows? That's a...
The Terror of Aquaman. Now, obviously, and Wonder Woman, Princess of War, I think those go together on some level. Because, obviously, those two are going to get married to stop a war. So what is it between the two of them, or their two worlds, that put them at odds? And what is that marriage going to be like? I don't think it's going to be one based on love. It's going to be based on
convenience and need and whatnot.
And I thought it was interesting, too, that they kind of lumped those two miniseries in with Lois Lane and the Resistance under whatever happened to Europe.
Yeah. So I wonder what's going to happen with those two. What's interesting to me is I guess I can't help but wondering if the Wonder Woman we're seeing now is already the Flashpoint Wonder Woman.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
See, I was thinking about that, and I don't think it is. I think this is because part of the reason I don't think that is because I think he has, JMS had a whole story that he was going with, and eventually this Wonder Woman would tie into the normal DC universe.
I guess what I'm saying is, could this be where, though?
See, I don't know. I don't think it is, but I'm not sure.
I'm not 100%, and just to clarify, I'm not 100% sold on that either. I'm not even half sold on that. I'm just throwing out an idea. It's interesting because we're going to have another continuity for another Wonder Woman now.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting, which I have nothing against, because obviously there's going to be a whole new continuity for everybody. I'm just constantly trying to speculate with Wonder Woman with what's really going on with that.
And it's funny because this Wonder Woman, that would be a great explanation that we're already seeing the Flashpoint Wonder Woman, and she sides with Aquaman's people because of the people that are hunting down the Amazons, and that would be a great way for her to save her people, and maybe he's got similar issues. So it could very easily be the tie-in and the connection, but just something is just... And it's just a gut instinct tells me that it's something else, that it's something different. So it's one of those just feelings I have that could be way off, that maybe, okay.
The heroine of Gemworld returns, which would be Amethyst. I'm guessing that's what they're talking about. Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld, which is cool. I'd kind of like to see her back again. God bless the Cyborg. I'm guessing our current Cyborg Superman, right? Or are you thinking it's Cyborg?
Or is it Cyborg? That's, because... When I first saw that, my first thought was Cyborg Superman, and you think with changing around in time, maybe either he stops an invasion instead of starts one, or who knows where that could go play out, or it could be Cyborg. It could be our guy, and so I don't know.
Where is Superman? Is this the ship that never made it to Earth?
Yeah, that's my guess.
I'm thinking he's the one that's been captured and being studied.
Oh, okay, which would be another possibility.
Only because, the title of the miniseries is Project Superman.
Right.
And we know that Abin Sur survives, so I'm assuming his ship is the one that never crashed.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that would be a good point, because it is Abin Sur. It's called Abin Sur Savior. So, okay. Rampage of the Creature Commandos. I don't really have one on that other than they're going to rampage. Maybe that's what happened to Europe.
Could be.
Or because of the war. They were released because of the war, maybe as a last-ditch assault or something. I don't know. I'm open on that one. Ask Booster. Now, ask Booster about what? Is that ask Booster where is Superman, or just ask Booster about all this? And this could be why Rip's currently asking Booster right now.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on here, buddy?
Free Subject 1? What was Subject 1? Why does that sound familiar? That wasn't one of the things that we saw in Superman all that time. Wasn't there a subject? Or that was Subject 17 or something, though, wasn't it? That wasn't Subject 1.
I think we'll find out who Subject 1 is. My guess, if I was going to make it just a ballpark guess, Superman would be Subject 1. As he's being experimented and studied by the American scientists, that because assuming that his ship is the one that he's the one who they say he was studied by the government. Maybe he's Subject 1.
I'm going to disagree to a certain extent, only because, and what you're saying makes perfect logical sense. It doesn't seem like anybody's repeated on this, though. Like, if you take a look, that there's nobody that has like a second appearance on this wall. They're all isolated. There might be links like with Wonder Woman and Aquaman, but they're clearly two separate references to two different people. So I'm wondering if Subject 1 is somebody else. I could be wrong on that, though. I could be making an assumption that's totally off base, and you could be completely right, because what you're saying makes logical sense to me. So maybe, but that's my only thinking as to why that might not be the case. The Changing Man, I'm guessing, is that Shade the Changing Man? Are we bringing that in? I don't know. Which I'd be great with. I love Shade the Changing Man. I don't know. I don't know what that means.
I think I read somewhere that they are doing something with Shade the Changing Man.
Oh, I'd be thrilled with that. I love Shade the Changing Man, so that would be very cool. And then Captain Cold equals hero. And what would lead, I guess to me, what would lead to Captain... And I could see that happening, but...
My thought on this is, I'm thinking Flashpoint is somehow associated with the Reverse Flash, because Cold is the one who got him free because he wanted to, ask him questions about, why he came.
No, it wasn't. It was Captain Boomerang who freed him.
Oh, it was Boomerang who freed him.
So that wasn't Cold. Cold
Okay,
was admonishing him for freeing him.
Maybe that's why he's a hero. Maybe Cold's the one who can take down the Reverse Flash.
No, I'm guessing that happened in this continuity, though.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the wall references the Flashpoint continuity. So what would make Captain Cold hero in that I guess that's what I'm saying is...
He becomes a hero by taking down the Reverse Flash in that new continuity. He still develops the Cold technology, but he doesn't develop it as a thief. He develops it as a hero and stops... Flash, because Cold is a good weapon against the speedsters, because he's able to slow, even though they're going super fast, you hit that, freezing, wall that he can put up with the gun, it does slow him down. So maybe Cold in the Flashpoint universe becomes a hero, or a quasi-hero where he's not, because maybe going after and taking down a Flash isn't a bad thing. So Cold is still a rogue, but he's a rogue who takes down a Flash, who takes down a speedster, and that could make him a hero.
And maybe if the Flash itself concept has changed, because whatever changes there are, that would provide an opportunity for him to not become a rogue? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I have no idea on that one. I just find the wall interesting. It's always fun to talk about that.
It's cool because you sit there and you throw out an idea and you think of something and then you find out later you're completely off. And you're like, oh, okay.
Are you guys both picking up Flashpoint?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about the minis? Let's talk. Let me just go through the list of the minis real quick. There's Whatever Happened to Gotham City, and then there's Flashpoint, Batman, Night of Vengeance 1-3, Deadman and the Flying Graysons 1-3. Whatever Happened to the World's Greatest Supervillains, and that's Citizen Cold 1-3, Deathstroke and the Curse of the Ravager 1-3, The Outsider 1-3. Whatever Happened to the Aliens. And that's in that Outsider one, just to jump back a second, this is referencing a villain. Whatever Happened to the World's Greatest Supervillains. So that's a villain reference. Well, although that doesn't mean that one has to remain a villain,
right.
So who knows? Whatever Happened to the Aliens, Abensur the Green Lantern 1-3, Project Superman 1-3, which, that links the project like you're talking about then, Jim.
Yeah.
So that's a direct link to... Although, is Project Superman...
Subject 1.
Does that mean that Project Superman is Superman, or does this have to do with cloning technology? Could this be Bizarro 2.0? Could this be Superboy 2.0 for Project Superman?
Right.
Although if the ship didn't land, how would that come about? I don't know. So it's which ship didn't land. Whatever Happened to Science and Magic, and that's Frankenstein and the Creatures of the Unknown, 1-3. Would that be
the Creature Commandos
with Frankenstein in there? I don't know, possibly. Secret 7, 1-3. Whatever Happened to Europe, Emperor Aquaman 1-3, Wonder Woman and the Furies 1-3, Lois Lane and the Resistance 1-3. And Everything You Know Will Change in a Flash. Kid Flash Lost 1-3. The World of Flashpoint 1-3. And they said there's some one-shots and a mini we don't know about yet, because they've got to keep it secret. Now, here's my question. One of the things that came up on my Facebook page, the Raging Bullets Facebook page, do we see DC stopping the universe to do Flashpoint and releasing all these minis, or do we see this being released a la... my speculation is this is being released a la Blackest Night. We saw similar miniseries being crafted when Blackest Night came out, so I guess I'm seeing that the books like the Batman universe is going to stay the same, Superman universe is going to stay the same, the Wonder Woman universe is going to stay the same, but we're going to see the Flashpoint story taking place kind of concurrently with everything else and seeing later where it fits in. But how are you guys taking this? Are you taking this as... Because we haven't really seen an official announcement on how this is going to be released. I don't see all these minis coming out at the same time. Do you guys?
No, I think they're going to be staggered, just like you said with the Blackest Night miniseries, the same way.
Do you think these are too many minis?
That's my gut reaction at first, but I guess it depends on how they time them.
Yeah, and it depends on how they're laid out and what kind of stories we're getting within them. I actually... my initial reaction when I saw all the titles was like, ooh, this is people are gonna be upset with this just because of the number of titles and the number of stuff they're gonna say, hey, this is just, they're doing an event for greed, not for an event for a story. And that's gonna be, I know is probably, if it's not already comments out there, it's gonna be, comments that will come out just because you have that large number of titles. Now, personally, I'm going to get them all. I'm going to wait to see what happens, see what the story, how it plays out before I can really, judge it, because it's one of those things where it is you have a gut reaction, you have your initial thinking what's going to happen, but I haven't seen creative team listings on these. Have you guys?
No, I haven't seen anything.
Because for me, that's going to be a huge, point as to whether I think, it's if I know so and so is going to be writing something, like, hey, like that Secret 7. If they tell me that Gail's writing that, I'll be all over that and going yes, just waiting for it, because it's going to be something cool. And same thing with like John's or Deanie or any name that who I like their style, and same thing with the art style. I'll get more excited about it. So right now, I'm curious. I want to know what's going to happen. It's how are these things going to play out. So there's a lot of anticipation I'm going through now. But in the end, it's going to be judged when this is over and done with.
Yeah, my first reaction was when I looked at the number of titles, I heard this whimpering sound from behind me, and it was my wallet, my back pocket, crying for mercy. But I see myself at least buying the first issue of each one of them to get kind of a feel for what is the story about. I may make some decisions based on story, some based on creative team. It's hard to say at this point because it's kind of early. There's not a lot known about what's going to happen.
I wonder if it's going to be a little bit of A and a little bit of B. Maybe I'm wrong to assume that it's all going to be like Blackest Night. I guess what I'm saying is, what if some titles are put on hiatus during this?
Yeah. Because
it logically would make sense, and some are miniseries that are released independently. Because that's 15, which is, I think there was 7 released during Blackest Night.
Yeah.
This is quite a bit more.
Yeah, it's a larger number. But here's the other thing that I was thinking about. The cool thing with like a time kind of travel and or just that time distortion type of story arcs is with your monthly title, you can literally keep going on, because it's when it gets fixed, it'll get fixed right back to that exact point in time when it got disrupted. So,
oh yeah, that wasn't my point. I guess the reason why I was saying maybe some titles will be put on hiatus and some not. I guess I'm looking at that number of 15, which doesn't bother me any at all. I'm excited for the event. I'm actually a lot more excited with like Rip Hunter's Wall going up and stuff like that, and knowing that there's going to be a whole different universe to explore because of the events of FlashPoint, which, it's going to literally change everything. So I'm excited for that. I got no problem with it. And I guess another reason why I don't think it's too many is if they'd handle it a la Blackest Night, the truth of the matter was Blackest Night, you did not need to read any of the minis in order to understand Blackest Night. So I'm hoping it's crafted the same way, and I can't imagine John's not, because Blackest Night was so successful. And why was it so successful? Because you could read the mini, really get a complete story, but it was so good that I think a lot of people who were like saying, I don't want to read all this extra stuff, got excited to read it because of how good the main story was. So I don't think it's a major issue that way. I agree with what you're saying in the sense that I think the books can continue too. I'm assuming like Batman, they're not going to derail what's going on in Batman right now for this. They can't, right?
Yeah, we got a good groove going on with him, with Batman Inc., we're starting up a couple new Bat titles, and I can't see them going, putting the brakes on right as it's like, right as you're getting the momentum going, right as you're getting people into the new title, to stop it suddenly. So I think they're just going to continue on, and maybe there'll be a spark, in an issue saying, boom, this is where FlashPoint happened.
I agree. That's more of what I think is going to happen. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that has to happen necessarily for every title, and maybe there will be some logically that are put on hiatus for this. I guess that's what I'm saying, maybe. I don't know. It could be either or. I guess I'm looking at that number of 15 and saying, depending on how they're going to be released, we'll make that decision. Number doesn't bother me any. I'm excited for the event, but I'm just wondering financially if they're looking at that, because as Myron said, that's a lot of money out of the pocket for people. And, if you're not as diehard, that might be an issue. But like Myron said, he's going to try picking up. Now, Myron, how are you going to then, if you enjoy them all, keep reading them all?
I probably will. I imagine so. I'm hoping I can afford to do it without cutting titles that I would normally buy to make room to buy the Flashpoint minis. But it all depends on what I see. I think you're right. If you look at how much effort DC has put into their main books to get people excited, I don't think they're going to stop. And when they did they took that year one break and they kind of chopped all the books off, and a lot of books lost momentum and continuity that they were building. I don't think DC is going to do that at all. I don't think they're going to stop any books unless creatively they want to for the changes that are going to take place in Flashpoint.
I guess that's what I'm saying. I wonder if there are some titles that they're looking at and saying, logically, this might be the title that we can, like, its stories come to an end arc-wise, so we're going to put this title on hiatus and go read this Flashpoint mini right now. Because it logically makes sense for you to be doing that in this title. I guess that's more of what I'm saying than saying, like, we're going to stop Superman, we're going to stop Batman, titles that maybe logically have reached the ending of an arc, kind of like how Green Lantern tied into it, except in this case, those titles will become this mini instead.
Well, you think about, like, what if the Wonder Woman we're seeing now is this Flashpoint Wonder Woman? It would make sense that you would put the Wonder Woman title on hold while the Wonder Woman 3-issue series is going. Mm-hmm. So it leads into that, and who knows, like, that Secret 7, that could be the Secret 6 could then shift into that and go that way kind of deal. Or even, like, one of the...
Outsiders, Outsiders, for example. Would Outsiders maybe end? Its arcs come to an end. Go read The Outsider. So I don't know that that's what's going to happen. I'm just throwing out possibilities on that. Do you have a preference?
I actually would like to see it do kind of stuff where it does fit. Because I'm especially thinking even with that Villains title where it was Deathstroke and Ravager. They pause Titans because that's, and then it continues on a story going on that way. Or even, as we said, with Wonder Woman, I think that would be kind of a cool thing. I don't think I'd want every title paused.
No, I wouldn't either.
But I don't know. I think I would like to see that. Just that whole kind of shifting, and this is what it is. So you got these 3 issues here, and then after these 3 issues, you'll get an explanation and or your regular title back, or those new characters that were created in Flashpoint, maybe some of them will continue on into the current DCU continuity. So it could be a kind of a nice way to change stuff up, do a sudden bam, drop a new status quo on a character, or change up a hero, or change up a storyline, and not have it be really like a giant whiplash. What just happened? Well, what happened was Flashpoint.
One of our listeners thought that he heard that it was going to be an Age of Apocalypse kind of thing. And where he was referencing that would be, they stopped all the X-Men titles during that time. And I guess I do agree with that to a certain extent, and I guess it's a lot of where my comments are coming from. But I don't see them stopping the whole universe, because Marvel didn't stop the whole universe then either. Because even with the 15 titles, you're not getting the whole universe there.
No.
DC publishes more than 15 titles a month. For you guys, has this event been one that you've always been excited about? Or has it been one that, like, as we've gotten closer to it, the momentum build has shifted and now you're more excited? Because for me, I'm definitely a lot more excited now than I have been. And I mean, to the point where I'm thrilled and excited to read Flashpoint now. I was not, like, with the teasers and everything up until, I want to say about a month ago. I wasn't excited like where I was kicking my heels together the same way I was with Blackest Night. Now I'm really, really super excited for Flashpoint. But, like, Myron, where are you at on this one? Was this something you were always excited for coming up, or?
Well, I was interested in what was going to happen, but there wasn't any real excitement because you really didn't know what the story was going to be about. I think in contrast to Blackest Night, where you had almost a 2-year lead up to Blackest Night, you knew it was coming, and you kind of knew what it was going to be about to some extent. This has been more kept in secrecy, so I've gotten excited as we've got closer, and certainly the Rip Hunter wall and the teases for the minis and those teaser posters have generated a lot of excitement as far as I'm concerned. But initially, no, I was interested in it. I knew I was going to read it, but I don't think I was excited.
Actually, I kind of agree with that. I think we're all 3 of us are on the same wavelength. Where when they first announced Flashpoint, I will admit I wasn't that thrilled or excited, because I was like, okay, yeah, it should be an interesting Flash story. I really didn't think that it would be a universe spanning. And then I want to say New York, they talked. They didn't talk about it, but they started. Stuff started coming out, and I'm like, okay, this isn't just a a Flash story. This is going to be a universe story, and it started. It was kind of like that chugging, the little engine that could just going up the hill, chugga chugga. Yeah, I think I can, kind of deal. And it's.
I love that you're doing the visual.
Yes, I know. I talk.
He's
with
like
my
chugga
hands.
chugga 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 chugga. And it looks exactly like you think it would look.
Yes, but it's building now, and especially when they announced that on Free Comic Book Day we're going to get the issue 0 kind of deal. So this is something that I'm definitely looking forward to now, and it's an excitement level that's growing. And quit pointing your Sinestro guy at me.
I thought he was going to be your conductor.
Oh. Yeah.
I have an old Mego-style Sinestro. One of my buddies got me for my birthday. The Mattel released a new version of the Mego-style ones. I love the way they're a lot closer to the comic book renditions of them. They both are very, very cool figures. And then I got also a Hawkman and Hawkgirl lead figurine from my buddy Chris. So I've got to thank my buddy Jim and my buddy Chris for those gifts because those were pretty cool. So I'm going to shout those out.
Yeah,
But that's
and
how I
those
was playing
chugging, he's waving the Sinestro in the air. Threw me off my game.
Oh, you had a game going with that?
Hey, I got my groove going, man.
So he threw you off track.
Yeah.
And the first groan goes to Myron.
I like that one. That was good.
Nice.
Oh, no, you don't!
Due to storm systems here, Jim and I haven't gotten our comics yet, so I wanted to talk a little Brightest Day, and the last issue that I got was the scary Brightest Day number 18. And heads will roll. This was just and honestly, just to commend the creative team, because it was funny. Somebody posted on our forum, and I forget, I apologize, I think it was Dick Grayson, 99 maybe, how he was upset over what was going on with Hawkman and Hawkgirl, that they did it again. And to me, I don't look at this, first of all, I don't look at this as them doing it again, because they're on their last life. So what happened to them there? And I guess I'm going to jump right to the reveal,
ending.
the ending reveal, because I think we have to talk about this, and then we can go back and actually talk about how we got there. It looks like they died? Is that what the Lantern did? Is that how you guys are taking it? Because I looked at it as they were saying they wouldn't want to live apart, meaning that they wouldn't want to live if they had to be apart, and the Ring was basically saying, so be it, and then did that to them? Is that how you guys are taking that? And Myron, I guess, Myron, I'll go with you on that one. How are you taking that?
I took it as the Ring decided that for whatever reason, and reasons that we don't know, that's better off for them and better off for the grand scheme of things, that if they don't want to be apart, that for the sake of whatever this underlying story is that we're building up to the conclusion of, it's better if they're not in existence, if they're not going to be apart.
Yeah, it's because the Ring's telling them the champion to be must be served above all others. We're not part of anyone's plan anymore. We're not living life apart again. Not this time, not ever. So be it. Boom, and then you get the whole kind of high energy, bright lights and white, and they're trying to. And it's cool because as they're reaching and trying to touch hands is when they kind of go all dusty and it's ashes to ashes, hawks to hawks kind of deal. And I was just like, you see dead men just like going,
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I should be, but I'm not.
They got their ashes kicked.
I guess, and that's why, to address what he was saying on the forums, and I apologize if it wasn't Dick Grayson, as a longtime Hawk fan, and as probably the Psycho Hawk fan out of the three of us, this felt different to me, because they can really die now. I don't see them reincarnating from this. I see this being first of all, I do see this being undone. I don't see this standing and staying. But I think this is going the way it is because the White Lantern is in the possession of the Anti-Monitor.
I don't know. See, I was thinking because it's part of the Lanterns originally telling them that Carter Hall and Shayera Hall, you must live life separately to live life stronger. So I think there's even though they got their life back and they had the mission accomplished kind of deal, they're still connected to the white light. So if they're together, I think there's going to be less energy and less thing going on that the Lantern can pull in.
But their life was restored here.
Yeah, I think, but they're still connected, I think. Until the new champion is chosen, I think all these other pieces are still kind of like a power battery and or energy receptor or whatnot kind of deal that the white light has to pull from. So if they're not going to live separately, you got to completely take them out of the equation. I think once everything is said and done, they're coming back, because I can't see this being the ending of the Hawks.
Yeah, I think, and Sean, I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me that the White Lantern took them off the table because they're simply too powerful and too awesome of characters that if they kept them in the story, they'd resolve this too quickly.
Well, that's exactly it, and people have to earn it.
Right.
Now it's my turn to groan.
No, I guess my real caution here with it, and looking back to the beginning of the issue, because I want to go back to now. Deadman's talking about something strange is happening, I can feel it. And we see there, right specifically at that moment, I can feel it, the White Lantern is yours, big dude. And we see Black Lantern Firestorm handing the lantern to what I'm assuming is the Anti-Monitor on cord, right?
Could be. Or it could be just this whole whatever the big bad is. Whether the big bad is the Anti-Monitor, or it's somebody living inside the Anti-Monitor, or it's something else.
Well, I take it is, because the Anti-Monitor's back. He was one of the ones returned, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's back to life. So I don't know. I don't know what's to come yet. Again, are we all assuming that the Hawks aren't done for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't think so.
It was what Robinson said he was going to do. Well, he kind of alluded that he was doing a Hawkman series.
Kind of did, kind of didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing because of this. You can't
Yeah.
say you're doing a Hawkman series if the Hawks have now vanished. I completely understand now why there's so much secrecy behind whether or not there's going to be a Hawk series. My thing, though, is I do not want to see these two separated. Adamantly do not want. I'm rooting for them. I will take a mace to anyone who gets in my way. Because I think they've crafted so well bringing the two of them back together again here that they finally beat in this issue the curse.
And I tell you, this was a tug at the heartstrings kind of moment, because when they beat Hawkgirl's mom, they separate the entity, they go through all this battle, and they're finally together, and they're she's like, hey, love will take you wherever you want to go. They both go think back to home at Saint back at the museum and all that stuff.
Stone Chat.
Yeah, and they're sitting there, and it was just, they had that moment where like, yeah, we can grow old together. Well, we're not old yet, and it was just that whole kind of loving moment, and then just ripped right out from underneath them. I was just like, oh man, come on.
And I love seeing them together. I'm like, yes, this is the moment I've been waiting for. They're back, the Hawks. Let's kick some booty. And the battle was fantastic when they were taking down Mom. I loved the two of them together, and the exploration that the Claw of Horus, because it had part of the gem in it, and then even Carol Ferris coming up and saying, but it was also your love, this great undying love that you two have that ultimately helped them wield the power and actually take her down at the end. I loved every minute of that. I thought that was great. And I also liked that we learned that the entity, the love entity, can be corrupted by its host, which you don't always see. Usually you see, like with Parallax, for example, which we saw in the great issues where Parallax was part of Flash, that Parallax corrupts the host, not the host corrupts Parallax. This one, though, the love host is corrupted by, the love entity is corrupted by the host. It's a reversal of what happens with Parallax. So it's interesting to see how different emotional hosts react in different ways to the entities. I like that. I like that there's nothing cookie cutter about any of that.
And it's funny because you seriously you start looking at these two going on, and I'm admittedly I'm now a Hawkamaniac, and I get the coolness about him, and I get seeing these two together because this is my exposure to really to her being in the picture. Because before this, I was Kendra, not Shaira Hall. So it's kind of seeing those two together. I really dig some of these pages where you see just the power of love going through them, and they got the the Sapphire colors going, and it's sometimes it's just the bright color in the eyes. You get a couple other sequencing where it's throughout the whole body, and you got Hawkman just with this really nasty look like I'm gonna pound in your face, but he still has that the pink color and the pink tone going through him. So this for me was visually a cool thing. It was a cool story, but this was another one of those really great artistic issues for me. So it's, I don't know, kind of babbling here, but it's, you know...
No. I'm actually... Everything you're saying is what I totally felt. And thematically, the Hawkman solo series that I fell so in love with, that spun out of the most recent JSA series, this is exactly the tone and feel, when Kendra was in the series as well, of what I liked about the relationship between Hawkman and Hawkgirl. I know Kendra was a different Hawk, but there were echoes of Shayera there, and this tone and feel of everything you're digging is, amen, exactly what I've loved about the Hawks and what I think is so fantastic. For those people that are collecting comics on the digital app, that you're kind of doing some exploration with that right now, maybe to enhance your collection, the Hawkman solo series, how do I know this? Because
you have it.
This week they just released like the first, it was either 3, I haven't read them yet, because I literally just downloaded them. It was either the first 3 or the first 4 issues of that solo series are on the app. Which is, wait, you know where they're also at? In single form in my basement.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Like, why? Why do I need to have them on my app? Because like, you know, at work, you know, when I'm doing my lunch break, I will admit, I do read comics from my app, from various apps, not just the DC app. I've got the Boom app and the IDW app, and usually I reserve those apps for comics that I don't have. But there have been a few favorites that I've rebought on the app, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I rebuying some of these? I've already got the singles. I do use the app a lot more for the things that I don't have. Like there's the other Fringe miniseries that was out there, Tales from the Fringe. Full 6-issue series has been released on the app, and I did not pick that up in paper comics. I bought that exclusively on the app. And that was a Wildstorm. So, and which it's another one that's very good for Fringe fans. The second miniseries I highly recommend. But the Hawkman series, Jim, if you're enjoying that, I can't recommend the solo series enough as a must-read and pick up at back issues at the con, because I know you're more than the digital line. You would go for the back issues. I'm not parting with mine, so you'll have to... you can borrow, but if you want a set of your own, you're going to have to pick them up. You can borrow them if you want to read them. The mom stuff is something I've really been enjoying. But also, I loved seeing the Bones come back to life. And to just see their long history. That's something that I want to read more of in a solo series. I want to read more of their past lives.
That'd be a really interesting miniseries.
Wouldn't it? Or even, I think when Robinson was... And I don't know how true... I don't remember if he said this or not. I thought the idea was that they would do a year's worth of comics, and every year there would be, similar to what he did with Starman, a Times Past issue with past life of the Hawks. And really, it's an inexhaustible ability to keep going back to this, because you've got whole lives that they lived in the past. So you could keep going back to, like, the Western era, for example, and telling different stories there. You could go back to, you know, the ancient Egypt era, but a whole bunch of eras that we've never, like colonial era, you know, where you got like him with a noose around his neck, and then going back to what looks like Roman times, I guess. I don't know. I'm just seeing just an incredible amount of eras that are being represented here. And what don't we know about their lives? What eras do we not know about that they lived? Because I'm assuming they were present in every era.
They have to be.
It'd be very cool to read what their lives were like and who they were when they met up again. But also, even before they met up, I would love to read stories where they didn't know each other yet. You know, they didn't know that they were Carter and Shayera, or Katar and Shayera.
Yeah.
That they, or Khufu, I should say, Khufu and Shayera. I would love to see stories of what they were like living independently, where maybe they crossed paths but didn't have the recollection yet.
And didn't realize it.
Yeah, because I don't think they have to have the I don't think every story has to be about them connecting again. I would be very interested in reading about those lives and what they're... I love... When you talk about time travel, I love Highlander. I love those kind of things where remember in Highlander on the TV series, you had to see constant flashbacks.
The different periods. Yeah, it's kind of fun.
So I would love reading more and more of that. And it'd be a shame not to take advantage of the storytelling opportunities there. Now, Central City, let's go back to the Rogues. We talked about this. Boomerang and Captain Cold. This is a huge problem because he has betrayed the trust of the Rogues. He went rogue on the Rogues, which is a big problem for them because they are a family and they are a unit, and he's been trying to regain favor that favors loss. But now he's revealing the truth of, I was told I got to chuck a boomerang at this dove, and I don't know why. And I want to know what is going on. My view of the world has changed because we forever thought that life is not going to give us anything back. Well, it did. It gave me life back. I am here. Why? And why me? And logical sense is, who am I going to go to? The only other villain, a scientist, who came back, and to ask him, why are we here? What is the point? I understand the heroes more so than, why would you bring back all of these heroes and us?
Yeah, because
what is the theme?
He's a scum. He was a thief, a crook, a murderer. He wasn't the nicest of person. Why bring him back? So I really dig seeing just that kind of that fight sequence between them, and just that, I don't want to say final nail in his ever returning back to the Rogues, because I think there's a chance that Boomerang could make a return, but it's going to be difficult because of what he did.
Are these tests like a shift for balance of power? Like setting up scenarios where, will Hawk dive in front of it to save Dove's life? And if he does that, will his life be returned because he has made that sacrifice of himself? Boomerang's life be returned for enabling that balance of power shift? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if this is a battle of good and evil, the battle for the White Lantern, where the White Lantern's setting up a scenario where it's either the good guys or the bad guys, and, it's who wants it the most.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Does the white light mean that it's necessarily all good, or is there a possibility for evil to win? Because you got another big bad that's still around, Anti-Monitor. So it really isn't just two. It's two and the big cheese.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what because I do consider the Anti-Monitor to be an evil entity, obviously because of.
He's had some bad times.
Yeah.
He's made some bad choices in his life.
He has.
We just got to give him a chance to do right.
Do you think he's trying to walk the straight and narrow now?
I think there's I think inside him somewhere deep buried there is just a good guy just wanting that one chance. He needs that person to give him a kind word and a pat on the back. Hey, good job with that, trying to conquer the universe.
You trying to be like his sponsor or something?
Yeah, kind of deal.
Yeah, just kind of work him through it.
Yeah. 12-step program for the Anti-Monitor. He'll be fine.
In most horror movies, that sponsor dies, right?
Yeah,
You take that role all you want to, buddy. I knew him when.
Actually, I would, but I'm going to be in the Thunder Agent, so yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's
so
right.
I can't, or I would. Don't.
Yeah, which is the better choice?
I'm going to go with Thunder Agents because
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to go Thunder Agents just because I'm going to be the guy who breaks the streak. I'm going to be the one Thunder Agent that actually lives.
See, I think your odds are better being the sponsor of the Anti-Monitor. I really do. That's just me. But hey, do what you want, dude. Now, I liked seeing Aquagirl, because that's somebody that I was afraid was going to get lost in the shuffle. Because I was a big fan of this character before Teen Titans, when she was in the Aquaman series. So then we saw her brought into Titans and all that. I think it's a cool character, so I was glad to see that she wasn't just... I was afraid that, she was going to be shelved onto the side and ignored. And I'm glad to see Mira approaching her and going to her for some help with the situation. And not knowing what's going to happen with Aquawar, which I know is next issue, I'm very excited. And I know poor Myron's probably chomping a bit going, I know what happens.
Like,
I've caught myself twice now, about to say something and then thought, oh, wait a minute, they don't know about this yet.
Right. So it is interesting to me to see those characters, and I'm glad to see that they aren't being shelved. Because that, to me, is a strength when writers find creative ways of saying, well, no, we can bring everybody in, and we can acknowledge all these characters in an interesting way. Especially because she so recently has been in the Titans.
Yeah.
Well, I thought she was going to be also maybe making appearances in Static, which we haven't heard much about Static, the solo series.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They announced
Zombie, I know, is coming out soon.
I don't even know if there's a release date out there now for him.
Zombie we pre-ordered. Yeah. Did you pre-order Zombie?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's very interesting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we really haven't, other than what's going on with Deadman, which this poor guy, he doesn't know which way's up. I did love seeing Dove say, I'm going to get there for you, I'm going to be there for you, because this relationship between the two of them isn't a one-night stand, a fling. There's actual strong emotion between the two of them. He's living his life again and chose to live it, to come back and actually embrace life with her. And I love that she's sticking by him. That's true to who she is as a person and her character. I don't see it ending well with the two of them.
No, I just... And part of me wonders if we're going to get the return of Deadman, if he's going to be the new White Lantern Guardian. What does that mean for him? But it was funny for me. This scene, I kind of I felt bad for the grandpa because he's sitting in the sidecar of the motorcycle, going, "Hey, what's going on?" Because he's got no way to get back to the nursing home, and you figure Dove could maybe take him there, but with Deadman just flying off, turning all pure white light kind of deal. Is she going to go, well, let me take Grandpa back first and then go chase after Boston? She may just, fly off. And so here's this guy sitting in the sidecar going, help, little help here.
I can't get up.
I don't think he can, because I think he was in a wheelchair last issue. So he
was, wasn't he?
So he can't get on. So he's stuck in that sidecar going, oh, nuts, I can't move.
I love the conversation between the Hawks and Carol Ferris.
Yeah,
about love and them leaving, and then her seeing that picture of Hal coming out of her ring.
Even though she was denying it before then, saying that we can't have what you can, and yet obviously longing for it. I don't know. I root for them still. I really do root for Hal and Carol. And when I see those moments, I love that. Feels very human. That longing for that love that life has just gotten in the way of. Yet knowing that there is a spark on both sides of that equation. Are they doomed to forever be separated because of it? I don't know.
I think so. And I think it makes the relationship one of the more complex relationships in DC Comics right now, because it's an unrequited love, and their attraction is so strong when they're apart, but when they're together, they're not good for each other. It's like they can't live without each other, but they can't live with each other.
But have both of them had such experiences now that they could make it work now?
See, I think they could possibly pull it off, but here's the deal. Mm-hmm. With Carol being the queen of the Star Sapphires, Earth isn't going to be her home base of operation, probably. She's going to be in the stars all the time, and Hal is, mostly Earthbound. And that's his jurisdiction and where he mostly is. So he can't. So there's going to be a physical distance. They're going to have like one of the ultimate long distance relationship kind of.
Except you've got a ring where you can fly there pretty darn quick. Yeah. It's not like and you don't have any baggage fees. So so there really isn't a whole lot of excuse in that relation. Like it would be really difficult for Hal to get up and say, I've got to fly to Zamaron to be with my gal. I just don't see that being an issue.
I think they could make it work. It just takes a whole lot of love and a whole lot of willpower.
Oh, there you go. I mean, come on. I mean, this is not a bad thing. I mean, you're doing all right. So I'm just saying, if there's a time where you could make it work, it's kind of now, isn't it?
Hey, sometimes you got to pick, work over, romance kind of deal.
But I'm just saying, I think she'd understand a lot more now because she's got her own thing going on.
Well, they had that whole, it was the dialogue they had back and forth. I want to say in one of the Green Lantern, where he basically tells her, "Hey, you be careful." She's like, "Yeah, now you know what I go through every time you went on a mission." It's there. He's starting to understand what she's going through. She's understanding what he's going through now, and it's definitely is going to be a better understanding of who each other is.
But that's honest banter,
yeah,
and probably things that they weren't able to openly discuss without it being totally. Like if it came up in the past, it was more vicious.
Yeah.
Whereas that did have a little bit of a backhanded nature to it, but it certainly was a lot more playful than deliberately.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It wasn't bitter. Let me put it that way. It was backhanded for sure, but it wasn't bitter. And there's a distinction.
There was resentment, but I think now, with the experiences they have now, Hal, I think, can relate more to how Carol used to feel. And I think Carol can certainly relate more to how Hal used to feel. And I think you're right. Now, if there's a time in their relationship where it could work, this is the time.
Yeah, I would definitely. I don't mind heroes having relationships. I'm not saying they have to go and get married. There's a huge difference. I'm saying that it would be good time for them to give the relationship a shot. And, what does that mean for them? And, obviously it'll come with its share of complications. And will they make it? Will they not? I don't, who knows? That's half the fun of seeing a relationship kind of blossom in comics, is that not all of them make it. Guys, can we talk a little bit about Green Lantern number 61? Because this is the one with the Butcher revealed. And I'm always glad to see these entities start coming to life. And this came off of that Parallax issue, that great two-part Flash's Parallax story, which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed seeing, Barry kind of go through that and seeing what it was like when Parallax corrupts. Because we're used to seeing him corrupt a Lantern. And this was our first chance to see him. I don't remember him corrupting another hero previously, do you?
No, I think this is the first time we had him, doing anything like this. And it's kind of neat seeing that there is because I always figured it could only be a Lantern because of the whole, yellow and green kind of deal. So I like seeing the fact that all he needed was just a moment of fear to get in. And once he got in, that was it. It was all on.
This was an issue, this 61, that got me excited for the Red Lantern series. Because when you get to see Atrocitus really spotlighted very heavily in this one, I'm like... And not that I want that whole series just to be about Atrocitus. I really... he was very compelling in this issue. And we got to see his own code of sorts being really laid out in front of us here and what he's trying to do. And how he'll even talk about somebody who'll stand up against his entity. I really enjoy that about him, and that there's an intelligence to him as well. It's not just rage. There's a smarts there.
That's the thing I really needed to see. And it was funny because when I reread this issue, most recently it was after knowing there's going to be a Red Lantern series. And so I'm really reading more into it. Reading because the Butcher also has... an intelligence, and he's not just this mindless beast of rage. He has his own, thought process, his own, studying, and his own understanding of humanity. And I thought that was cool to see again. Okay, this Red Lantern series is going to be more than just really cool fight sequences and, cool looking comic. There's going to be a substance behind these characters, and we're going to start getting and understanding who these different people are. There's no way it's not just going to be about Atrocitus. We're going to get the whole gambit and the whole run of who are the Red Lanterns, what they are about kind of deal. So when you're saying this got you excited about this was the thing. I read it before I knew about the Red Lantern series the first time, and I was like, oh, that's a cool thing. I'm glad they're doing that. And then rereading it after knowing about the Red Lantern series, it was one of those things that really jacked it up for me, going, okay, I'm now really excited about the Red Lantern title.
Are you excited for it, Myron? Red Lantern? Yeah. Is that a series?
Yeah, I really can't wait to see it. I was reading an interview with Peter Milligan, and he was talking about how, there's so much more to these characters. The motivations as to how they got to be Red Lanterns really are unique stories and very powerful stories, and he wants to really delve into some of those things. He talked about specifically looking at Bleez and Atrocitus, and I think that's going to be really interesting and very compelling.
Yeah, I agree. I think that those are characters that... Bleez especially, we've seen a lot of development with her in Emerald Warriors, which has been great. I think there's a lot of room to really kind of flesh out their whole universe. I think you could say that about any of the Lantern colors right now. I think they all have that flavor to them. I liked seeing that the entity has had a previous relationship with the Spectre. I mean, in the sense that they've had previous dealings. To see the Butcher's relationship with the Spectre, and to see how the Spectre is basically saying, get out of here, enough's enough already. But also to seeing what happens when the Butcher takes on a host, and how he feeds off the host, and will do things to deliberately manipulate the host to encourage more rage. So it's not about serving the host, it's not about helping the host, it's about pushing the host to feed is that how you're reading that? The definitely. Rage of the Butcher?
It definitely kind of one of those deals where it's kind of that same principle that the Black Lanterns were having, where they're feeding on the emotions and they're feeding on it. This is what energizes and what strengthens the Butcher, and it's kind of to me, it kind of seemed like the whole Larfleeze thing where he's never satisfied. And he always wants more and more and more. With him, it's not more items, it's more rage. He's always going to be hungry. He's always going to be seeking that out. But this, for me, was just one of those kind of cool moments where, with because they initially showed me the location of the butcher, and they showed the guy being executed. I was worried that, okay, maybe he's going to go into this mass murderer. No, he went into the father of the victim. And I thought I was like, oh, that's nice. That's just going to be kind of a, because anybody could imagine this guy killed and mutilated his little girl and kidnapped her from the house, did who knows all type of horrific stuff he did. That rage, that anger that's going on in this guy, every single one of us, whether you have kids or not, you can understand where he's coming from. And it was just that great, and even then the butcher just continued goading him, just reminding him how the guy said, oh, she liked it, she enjoyed it, kind of deals, like, just, oh, gosh.
It made you feel the rage that the father felt, and you really sympathized with the father. And then when he wants to go and kill the guy, you really can, get him.
What kind of man is the killer that on his death's door, rather than pleading and apologizing and trying to make peace and hopefully go to a better place, he uses that moment to stick one more knife into the dad and to twist it? That was something to me that I found, wow, talk about the root of all evil. And then it made you even more want to see him get what was coming to him.
It's stuff like that just, it infuriates you. It's that base nature of you should feel some remorse. You should feel some guilt over this horrific thing that you did, and you're not. And it was just... Again, it's one of those emotional responses that it pulled. And, this is a comic book. None of this actually happened. That little girl did not get kidnapped and murdered, but you know what? There was still a genuine reaction that it got from me. And that, for me, is something, if a comic can actually pull that out of me and pull a real emotion where I just got to stop myself for a second, I was glad that, it's one of those things that excites me about, reading good comics like this.
I was wondering whether or not Spectre was there to pursue the butcher, or was he there to pass judgment on the killer?
Boy, I would guess pass judgment on the killer, and just the butcher was there. Boy, that's an interesting point.
I'm thinking he was there for the butcher. I think he sensed the butcher's presence there, and he was hunting down the butcher to stop him. I don't think he was there to pass judgment on the killer, because the killer was already being judged.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a very interesting point. There's no indication that he was there for the killer. He only is judging somebody because of what has happened with the line cross with the host. That's interesting. I guess part of me was assuming that he was there under the same mission that the butcher was, and they just crossed paths. But there's no indication that that's the case. It could be either or. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm guessing he was solely there to take down the butcher, and that's what pulled him out, because the butcher being on Earth, and he's like, hey, Earth is my domain. And while he was there, he's trying to calm down the host entity, the father, saying, you're not to judge that guy. That's my job. I am the spirit of, I am the, vengeance, not you.
That's why I thought he was there for the killer.
Yeah.
He says, I'm a killer myself. I'm here to do what you should not be doing.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's it. I could read that either way.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be very happy. So I think it works on both levels very well. So I don't know that I'm sold on either or. Jim, I find what Myron's saying correct, and I find what you're saying, Jim, correct. I think it depends on how you're really approaching the concept, because he could be there for either or. And that's the funny thing about the Spectre, is he genuinely could be there for either or. As we're taking a look at it, one of the things I wanted to mention was Atrocitus, and really the Butcher as a host, a seeker. And this idea that this entity, because we see Parallax really try to dig in roots on the entity as host, like what we saw with Hal Jordan, what we saw with Kyle Rayner. In each of these cases, he's really trying to build a nest and a home there where it will continue to breed fear. And I think he would have stayed in Hal Jordan as long, and to the point where we've seen him seek out Hal again and again to try and remake his home there, because he liked what he saw. So, and I think he liked perverting what was Hal, and that's part of his thing. But with the Butcher, it really is jumping from person to person, from host to host, based on their rage. And he was ready to give up this father to go to Atrocitus, feeling Atrocitus' deep rage and saying, hey, this guy might have a lot going on, but what's your story, dude? I liked that. I liked seeing that about him, that weakness, because that actually provided an opportunity for the Spectre. And if the Butcher had just stayed put, I don't think the Spectre would have been able to end things as easily. At least that's how I read that. How did you guys take that?
Yeah, this definitely was a 1-2 combo kind of deal. But also, you think about it, one of the things that pulled the Butcher out of the Host was the fact that once that killer was killed, his rage subsided. His whole rage was the fact that this guy was still alive. He didn't have any other rage. He wasn't mad at like the cops, at the judges. There was nothing else. He only had one sole focus of his anger, and that was the killer. So once you have that kind of slip and that break, that's where they're able to separate the connection, because he didn't have that continual feeding going on, that continual hunger. There wasn't anything else for him to really manipulate the guy with. He couldn't blame him saying, no, if these people had done their job, your daughter would still be alive. He didn't have that kind of deal.
He's his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That Atrocitus is doomed by his rage to forever be a Red Lantern, whereas, James Kim really, his rage was focused on one person, and once the subject of his rage was dispensed with, he dropped it. It left him, and I think that's where the Butcher, unless he were to take on somebody who had enough rage to become a Red Lantern, would forever be jumping from host to host, because how long can you sustain your rage?
I don't know. I've seen a couple. I've incurred the wrath and anger of multiple people, and I pretty much saw them continue that anger, for a very long time. There's a couple people I still probably shouldn't talk to, because I think if I did, they'd want to hurt me again.
I love this debate between the Spectre and Atrocitus, where, the Spectre's saying, do you wish to continue this fight? Atrocitus is basically saying, look at this man, look at all he's been through. And he's really pleading for mercy on behalf of this guy, saying, how can you not understand what this man went through? How can he be judged for what befell him? To see him showing that compassion and finding a certain sense of camaraderie with this guy, where in the beginning of the issue he's talking about, this is a strange world full of strange people, I hate them, I hate it. He refers to that again in the end, but most of them is how he refers, looking specifically back at the dad, because he found somebody to connect to now, a kindred spirit. And I think that was something that totally surprised him about this world. And that's one of the things that I'm really liking, is the more we get to know him, the more complex he gets, and the far more interesting he gets. He's not a one-trick pony.
Yeah, I definitely did like how the ending, where it was like, I hate most of them. Whereas before he hated them all. And I thought it's again, that growth of a character, growth of insight of, who and what is the Red Lanterns. And I personally really am looking forward to, after all this stuff is, done, I'm looking forward to see if Spectre will ever be able to judge Atrocitus. Will there ever be that day of reckoning between the two of them? Because, when Spectre tried to judge him, he's like, right now you're on a path that's, this war against Krona is, within, ordained. So it's like he couldn't judge him at that point in time. But eventually this whole deal with Krona is going to be over, and are we going to get that, the round two, if you will?
Guys, before we continue on, I actually want to give a shout-out to Andy Lamprey. Andy just wrote us to say, hey, Sean and Jim, longtime listener of the show. Always thought if I contacted you guys for the first time it would be about a comic I'm geeking out on. I live in Wisconsin, just arrived home from work and turned on the news. They said that Cleveland got pounded from a storm and people are without power. I just want you guys to know my prayers are with you and your families and everyone else in Cleveland. I'll be waiting to hear if you're all okay. Be safe, guys. God bless you all. And that's fellow bulleteer Andrew. Thanks for that. Actually, we were just fine where we were. It was a little south of us, little west, that was really getting nailed. So we got lucky out of it. I got a snow day out of the whole thing, but we didn't get hit. Was it fine in your area?
Yeah, we as I said, we had a couple inches of snow, a couple inches of ice.
Yeah.
But we didn't really lose power, by us. So considering, an hour south of us.
Wait, we didn't really lose power. Did you lose power, didn't you?
No, we didn't. But there were some
down your street or something like that.
Not on my street, but there was in Cuyahoga County and parts of Cleveland did lose some power.
Stark County was a big one.
Stark got hammered, and that's like an hour south of us.
Yeah.
They got multiple days without power, and people had to go to shelters and that kind of deal. So
they actually set up a shelter here, preparing for that. Because I know I live in Menor, and they had prepared a place because of the elderly and things like that, people who need to be on machines and stuff. They had that all set up and prepared just in case because of the ice storm we got. So we actually dodged quite a bit. I'm very thankful for that, and I my heart goes out to many of the people who got stuck in that. I didn't hear about any major, like, people getting hurt or anything like that out of that, just a lot of power outages.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that nobody did. We got lucky on this one, so thanks for the thoughts, and that was very kind. I was like sitting there, I'm like, wow, that's really nice that he would even think of us in that way. So I wanted to shout out that email because it would totally floored me when I got it, and it was very kind, and I genuinely appreciate it. We got all our families and everything. We're pretty lucky on this one, so thanks a lot.
You won't get away from me this time, Buster.
Myron was just mentioning in the back of the most recent issue of Green Lantern, they had Tomar-Re. How are you guys, and you asked a great question, how are you guys liking those little movie updates where we get to see, we saw Sinestro there, we saw, was it Hal, the first one?
Yeah.
The first one, yeah, was it Hal or was it, yeah, I think it was Hal and then it was Sinestro.
And then now Tomar-Re. I'm loving those because to me it's really important to give me a sense of how much this is going to reflect the comics, because that's drastically important in a film for me. Well, I'll give you a great example of something that I'm worried about, tentatively worried about, because I got to see it in practice and see what it's going to look like. Like when I hear announcements for Wonder Woman and I hear how different it's going to be than the comic, at least with her being a businesswoman and stuff like that, I kind of want to see how that's going to play out thematically and how that's going to work as far as, like, is this, I hope it doesn't turn into another Catwoman, because I finally did see that.
Yeah.
My eyes hate me for it, but although Halle Berry looked very good in it.
Yes.
But it was one of those things where that's a great example of how not to do a comic movie. And I'm hoping that the Wonder Woman television show really takes a good look at what works in the comics and fits it in there. This movie for Green Lantern, though, and the reason why I'm even bringing that up, it feels so much, the more information I'm seeing from it, like the Green Lantern universe, that I am getting super excited for this film. So I hope this happens with Wonder Woman as well, because I'm digging these, and I want to see them every single time a new issue comes out. I want to see more updates about the film. Get me excited for it, and this is working. Is it working for you guys, though? Myron, is it working for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you could tell me anything and I'd be excited, But yeah, it's interesting, and I look at the character designs, for example, Tomar-Re here, and they're modified from the comic book source, but they're true to what the character was supposed to look like, but they've modified it slightly for how is it going to look good on a screen in real life. It's one thing when, sometimes things don't translate literally well from the page to the screen, and I think, I was reading an interview with Neville Page, who did a lot of the concept work, and he was saying, he strived to be true to the source material, yet make sure that it looks good on screen at the same time. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, there's an important balance there, I think, that needs to be maintained, where I think you can honor the source material, stay very, very true to it, while at the same time, I'll give you a great example. The last two Batman films, I adore. I think they were fantastic. But there's little tweaks to the Batman suit and things like that. The Joker had little tweaks to him and things like that worked for me. Ra's al Ghul, there were little tweaks to that whole concept, and it worked for me. So I don't mind little tweaks as long as they thematically stick to the core concept, and that idea is there. So you're right. I mean, I clearly, if you were to show me a picture of it, which Green Lantern character is this? It's Tomar-Re. Yeah. I mean, there's no two ways about it. What other character would you possibly think that is? But you're right. There's little slight tweaks that make him look a little better for the screen. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I'm getting more excited about the movie, as we get a little bit more information, because I was very tentative on it, and I was like, yeah, okay, it looks good. And I was always worried where it was going to go. For me, the thing that always kept me, confident that it was going to be a good movie was the fact that, Jeff Johns was so much involved with it, and he was flat out saying, hey, this is good. You're going to see Hal Jordan. You're going to see Sinestro. And for him to actually put hit the backing behind it, saying this is what, don't worry about it, this is going to be good, this is going to be accurate. That for me was kind of the thing that always kept me going. And as I'm seeing stuff, as I'm seeing the concepts and the visuals, it's increasing along with it.
I totally agree with you, and I'm just kind of laughing at it because I'm thinking through what you're saying, and I'm like, but what is he going to say? Come back and say, guys, I'm just going to warn you right now, it blows. I was sitting there, they just don't get it. Green Lantern. It's like, what are they doing to me? No, and I'm not mocking you at all. I'm more laughing at, because I agree with you. I'm 100% in your corner there. What you said is amen what I'm thinking. He has gotten me more enthused by his comments as well, so I agree with you. I'm more laughing at the irony when you were saying it and I was listening to it and thinking through. I'm like, what, is there really an alternative where you go and say, just really stunk?
See, and I know you probably heard, some of the interviews on Howard, and I've heard on O&A when they have an actor who's, plugging off their movie.
Sure.
And you could tell by just the lack, they're saying everything, how good it is, how cool it is. But you can tell whether they're passionate behind what they're saying or whether they're just going through the motions.
Agreed.
And that's what I'm talking about. He's passionate about what he's saying. He's not just, saying, hey, I got a paycheck from them, it's going to be good, trust me, kind of deal. Where you can really see he's putting, his personal reputation, his personal name on the line backing this movie. And that's...
I'm not wait, please don't take this the wrong way. I am not disagreeing with you. I agree with you. He got me enthusiastic for it. I really liked his commentary about it as well. So I am agreeing with you. I was laughing at the irony of it. He comes back and goes, it just blew. Don't go see it. I'm in this new role as creative director, and I just want to tell you, just forget it.
I'm so discouraged I'm leaving the comic book industry.
Yeah, it's like, what was I thinking? Green Lantern, what?
Well, apparently we're supposed to be seeing another trailer pretty soon.
Good.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm excited for. So, the more the merrier. It's great. Now, jumping on to Emerald Warriors number 6. This is a great one where Kilowog is taking major offense. And I can understand that with Kilowog's code. He is a tried and true soldier on the battlefield. And these are his fellow soldiers. These are people who he's trusted. Put your back against my back, and we're going to both have each other. We're going to both watch each other's backs. We're going to be there for each other. And you're honest with me. I'm honest with you. Yeah, your brash attitude and all that stuff. But I know you are a fighter on the field. We've been there together and been through it all. There is a respect there. This is a violation of that respect. And respect for him, trust for him, is huge. This would also be a slight of, you don't think I was worthy of knowing this? You don't think I needed to know this? How could you do this to me? This is a huge factor here. I mean, he just told him Krona is involved in this. How can you not tell me that Krona's involved? And Reed's just calling him out on it too. Now, I see the two of them coming back. But I agree with them being ticked, and yet I felt for Guy as well because I get Guy's point. It was one of those arguments where I understood Guy and I was very sympathetic for him, yet the reaction of the other two, these are people who are like, hey, we flew with you here, buddy. We trusted you. And at what point in time were you going to fill us in? Were you going to fill us in? If your, vomit segment didn't end up happening, when were we going to know?
For me, I kind of saw it as, Kilowog doesn't let too many people in.
Right.
To see, that kind of beyond the drill sergeant, trainer of the new recruits kind of deal. And Guy was one of those guys who he did trust in. And, there is that level beyond, because you're talking about, and I agree completely about the warrior code, where you have to, if you're in those crazy situations that they find themselves in, you have to 100% trust the guy who's watching your back and you're watching theirs, kind of deal. And right here is that lack of it. It does cut deep into that trust. So I was really getting into and enjoying that. But on the other side, then I was sitting there thinking, going, okay, is this all an act? is really, did they actually leave, or did they do a big loop around and make it look like they left because they know they're going up against a telepath? They're going up against somebody who can reach into people's minds. So now, when that guy goes into Guy Gardner's mind, he's going to see that these two left and they're a distance away. In reality, they never actually left, and they're doing the big loop around.
How do they keep that from the telepath, though?
Guy doesn't know.
But wouldn't he reach into their minds, too?
If he's only focusing on Guy, he's only focusing on the action going on. It could be one of those.
How do you know he's only focusing? How would they know he's only focusing on Guy?
Assumption.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a giant assumption, and I'd like to think that as soon as they flew away, that was the plan initially. Is saying, okay, we got to now go back. And I'm hoping that's the key. Now I may be completely off, and they may eventually just calm down and say, okay, we got to go back there, recognizing how big of a problem this is, and how it shouldn't just be on the shoulders of one person. Even as tough as Guy is, he shouldn't be the only one soldiering it, and they go back into the fight. I don't know. It's going to be one of those two stories, and to be honest, I'm happy either way.
Me too.
I think what Guy did is the worst thing you could possibly do to Kilowog, and I think I kind of read it that maybe Blease took advantage of the indignation and the rage that they felt and kind of urged it and pushed it on a little bit and pushed him to the point of leaving so that she could get Guy alone. And I think once they get away from Blease and they settle down and reconsider their take on the whole thing, they'll be back.
That could be as well. I didn't even think of anything like that, because I'm looking at this and you see her in the background on a couple things. She's kind of feeding on some...
She's chewing on a big red Blease gum, on a big red rage gumball. Which is really interesting considering the amount of rage that's going on around her. That just kind of says, hey, it's dinner time. Is she feeding on the rage that's going on around her? Because Kilowog's certainly spouting out a whole bunch of stuff.
Anger going on there.
And I think Blease kind of took advantage of that because that made them kind of open to her manipulation, and that she kind of just pushed it a little bit further than normally it would have gone.
That could definitely be a possibility. I didn't even think of that as a, I was completely, did not even enter my head. That's a good idea. I wonder. That'd be cool.
Now, I'm really liking what's going on with Sodom Yacht. Do you think everything he's doing is because he's being manipulated, or do you think there is a genuine part of him that's leading these people because of everything he's been through?
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think Sodom, he's got some good ideas, and he's got some... He's trying to do what's right by his people, trying to get them away from, the bad influence that's on his planet, and he's trying to be this hero and, kind of deal, but there is some manipulation going on. It's one, he's getting pumped with this energy, and maybe along with that energy is something beyond that, because he's not thinking 100% straight and clean.
Yeah, I think he's an unwitting pawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, and it's you think.
I guess what I'm talking about, though, I agree 100% with that. That's not what I'm saying. I guess what I'm saying, he started up this little offshoot group. Is that part of his being an unwitting pawn, or is he genuinely having a philosophical feeling that way? I guess that's the point I'm making. I agree 100%. How far is this into being a pawn, and how much is there an element of him that is starting this different society that's there? My personal opinion is I think it's a little bit of A, it's a little bit of B. That's my take on it. I think there is a genuine part of him that is starting this group, and that's because he genuinely feels that way. But then there is a part of him, like when we see him zone out there, and even when his people have called him out and said, hey, you just completely powered up here. What's going on with you? And he's like, what are you talking about? That's what I'm saying. I think when we see him in those zone out moments, that's when he's being the pawn, and we see him otherwise, he's not. That's my take, though. I don't know if you guys agree. Yeah,
and he's not questioning where his power is coming from.
No, not at all.
Well, you think about it, with him having the power, with him having Ion in him, he's used but he's used to having that kind of power levels. So maybe he's not remembering when he gets the jacked up power, but afterwards he remembers having that much power in him. He remembers having, that much energy, so maybe to him he's thinking it's kind of normal, and he's not thinking twice about the fact that he's stronger than he should be.
I think that's why he was chosen to be the living battery for this energy that's being siphoned, is because of his connection to Ion, his ability to handle all of that.
Good point.
Yeah. And I definitely do think part of his starting up this little group is him legitimately wanting to do it. and wanting to free his people and help his people. But there's got to be a little bit of push going on from the the big bad, from the Mind Dude.
I like this whole bit with Bleeze, where she did the assassination thing.
That was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a strategic attack between the two of them, and she was following through on what Guy said, and she literally stock of the situation as he was presenting it. And I'm not saying it's not a Green Lantern solution, but it certainly was a Red Lantern alternative to his analysis of the problem. So it was interesting to see how, in many ways, they were very effective together. Not saying that, she did the right thing and that I condone it. I don't at all. But yet, on the other hand, you can't argue with the fact that it did make them effective. So, which is interesting. I always like those kind of moral twists and turns where you can kind of understand why the villain was doing what the villain was doing, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, I kind of dig this scene. It was just one of those things like, okay, we got to get set up, and just like, the knife goes flying out, multiple headshots, boom. She's like, my way was faster. He's like, I was coming up with a plan. Well, what was it? I didn't have it yet. But it was just, Guy not wanting to admit that it was, let's be honest, it was the right move to play, I think, because I don't think these guards were innocent lives, but to be honest, who knows? Maybe they were actually just mind-controlled zombie kind of deals.
But as a police officer, is he allowed to do that? I mean, you're making him now judge, jury, and executioner, and that's where I like that Guy was saying that's not the way we do things. That's not how you do it, and he had a discomfort with that. And this is the guy. Wait, Guy's uncomfortable with it, and he's the guy who steps outside the zone.
This is the guy with no filter, and he's condemning her actions.
Yeah. And it's funny, as soon as you said, for a police officer, because I got my mind out of warrior mode, I got my mind on it, and I got my mind thinking about a cop. And the main usage and authorization of lethal force is if your life is in danger, if another innocent person's in danger, or if by letting that person live, somebody's life is in danger. And that's the main thing. And you kind of look at taking out those guards like that. Definitely, their lives weren't in immediate danger because they didn't have the guns pointed at them. They weren't about to kill them. You can say by letting them live, would that make leave other people at risk? Probably not. You can't really say you got a clear cut, free to fire kind of deal. For me, I look at her. That was definitely a soldier reaction by her. That was the sniper taking out the exterior guard towers. Slitting the throat. Silently taking out the patrolling guards. So you can get into the main base kind of deal. It's kind of, so we're kind of seeing warrior along with cop. And that kind of mindset between the two of them, and that's actually kind of I'm
strategic warrior.
Yeah, I'm rereading these sequences kind of differently again, and that's again something I like about with rereading of a comic multiple times, that you get that little bit of different take on it based on something else. So cool.
I really like the final battle with Guy and the Big Bad. Seeing just how powerful this character is, and how Guy is doing everything he possibly can to hold his own. He's dealing with this telepath that's not only a mental power, but an intense physical power.
And he can puke snakes.
Yeah. Which, puking snakes is one of those things where, that'll give you a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, kind of hard to concentrate. And I liked how the multiple facets that he's going with, where he's cutting into Guy's will. He's not able to take Guy over completely, but by breaking down his focus, by breaking down his willpower, he's weakening Guy Gardner. And that's the thing. Say what you will about Guy, he is a focused, he is a powerful fighter. And the fact that this guy is able to do that, he's able to, whittle away at, Gardner, that for me is saying, again, we got a powerful bad guy here. Yeah. We've already seen him go up and corrupt rookies, okay? Yeah, that was tough, and that was like, wow kind of factor, where he not only took over the rookies, he got them to kill themselves with their power ranks. So that was a huge thing, but now it's even going beyond that, where he's going up against one of the honor guards. He's going up against one of the big guys, the big guns, and he's able to manipulate the situation. So we're definitely seeing a cool villain here. That in the end, I hope we don't lose this person. I hope we get more adventures with him. Him dealing with other lanterns kind of deal.
I think we'll see this character again. I think this is a character that's being deliberately crafted to be as much an ongoing villain as like a Sinestro or Atrocitus is, or things like that, where there's multiple facets to the character. I think they're crafting a much larger universe where there'd be a reason for this character to be shelved for a little bit because he's defeated, but we will see him rise up from the defeat and be a part of more mayhem in the future.
Now, here's one thing I was wondering, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this. Now, when Saddam Yacht shows up at the end and he calls the guy Guardian, Guy's immediately like, oh no, he got a hold of you, and he gets the heat.
He's
vision.
calling Guy Guardian. I took it as he was coming to attack Guy and looking at Guy as the threat.
I think Zardor is playing off of Saddam Yacht's hatred of the Guardians and making him think that Guy is a Guardian.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I was wondering if he was calling the big bad a Guardian, like the rookie Lanterns were calling him a Guardian, or if he's calling Guy, kind of how, because you see Saddam's blasting him in the chest with the heat ray, but he's also is cutting up one of the snakes that's attacking Guy. So I'm right now I'm wondering how much control does he have over Saddam? What's Saddam seeing? Is there something else going on in there?
Well, I took it as he was blasting the snake because the snake happened to be on Guy's chest. If you take a look at the other half of the snake, the other half of the snake is where he was blasting Guy with his heat vision. So I don't look at it as he was attacking, at least that's how I looked at it as. I didn't look at it as him attacking the snake, as the snake just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
The unlucky lotto.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good book, that Green Lantern. It's funny how, we've got 3 main Green Lantern titles now, and each one of them is just working and just keeping that whole theme going. We'll have weekly Green Lantern when Red Lantern comes out. Weekly Lantern books.
That's gonna be cool.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say that's going to be cool having a weekly, Lantern book.
I was going to say, we haven't chatted since the revelation of Krona being the big bad. What are your guys' feelings about Krona being the bad guy?
I'm digging it. It's funny because he went from being a villain that I had no idea of to learning about him, going, oh, this is kind of cool, and just seeing him pop up a couple more times. I'm liking this. He's one of those villains that can take on an entire Green Lantern Corps. He can take on an entire DC universe, and it would make sense that he could, pull a power play like this. So again, it's a correct choice of a villain for the scenario.
Yeah, Mini Midge has been revealed to be Krona, which I didn't see coming. That was not remotely the realm I was thinking this was going. I had no idea it was going to be him. But then when I saw the reveal, I'm like, duh.
Yeah, it made sense, and you're like, oh, okay.
I felt like
we haven't seen Krona since Trinity.
Yeah.
And he was kind of imprisoned as a world soul in one of the alternate Earths. But what's interesting to me in particular is knowing the history of Krona and that he was never a Guardian level Maltusian. He was always the full size Maltusian before they evolved. He claims before he was revealed to be Krona, when he was just Mini Midge, that he kind of took care of the entities. He was the protector of the universe, and he helped write the Green Lantern Oath. And that kind of flies in the face of how we've always thought the origin of the Green Lantern Corps took place. That he was imprisoned and dealt with long before the Corps came around.
What are we going to find out during all this?
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
And to be honest, I'm kind of leaning that he's telling the truth, because we know the Guardians lie, and they've manipulated and they've rewritten history, and they've done what they thought was the right thing to do, to get away from either the emotional response or get away from, to try to hold on to the control of everything. So, in a way, he's the villain, and villains lie, and but right now, he's the only one who really has the most motivation to tell the truth. I'm thinking when everything is said and done, we're going to find out that this guy's been telling the truth, and it's the Guardians who've been lying about different stuff.
Or at least his perspective on the truth.
Right.
It's exciting to think about. And I'm interested in knowing how Krona went from Trinity to how he is now. I mean, we know the bandages accelerated his evolution, but it looks like he has Guardian chains on him. So what transpired after Trinity? I mean, I'm really excited to see what happens.
Yeah.
How we find out.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm very excited for that. It was one of those things, like I said, it was duh after I saw the reveal, but I had no clue.
I was still of the opinion that it was Appa Ali Apsa right up until the reveal. I mean, I was dead set that that's who it was, or that it might have been Sade, because we haven't seen her since Blackest Night. She was mentioned by Larfleeze to be doing an errand for him. So I kind of thought, well, maybe Larfleeze is trying to get the entities all for himself, and that Sayid is operating in the background for him. So yeah, completely out of the blue, which is great. It's a great swerve.
Yeah, I was happy when you made your revelation of Ali Oxenfree. I thought that was one of the ones that all joking aside, everything you were saying there, I'm like, okay, that's really logical. Because Johns actually is a big fan of going back to...
We've been hanging out too long, because I was thinking of how am I going to get an Ali Oxenfree joke in here.
I think we might have used that actually last time when this
Possibly.
was discussed. But it was one of those things when you were talking about it, it was obscure enough that Johns would pull something like that from the past. And he is known to do that and make it work and make it very viable. So I totally thought that was a potential route for it to go.
I mean, that's what makes it exciting for me as a longtime fan, is to still be surprised and to still be excited by the changes and the surprises that he makes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things I think about the DC Universe now in general. And it's one of the reasons why, it's funny, we're approaching the end of our 5th year doing this. It'll be 5 years in March. And why am I still excited about doing this show? It's because it's still fun. It's still exciting. I mean, the universe, the comics that are being published right now, I think are just as exciting as when we started this with 1 year later. They're doing such, and I'll take it one step further and say it's even more exciting now. I think that they just keep upping the bar and just keep looking for new ways to excite us. And one of the reasons why I think it's more exciting now is I think we're seeing events popping up all over the place. We talked about FlashPoint. We're talking about this. There's something going on in the Bat books. Superman's got his own thing going. There's Generation Lost, which is tying in with things that are going on with Power Girl and Booster, but then Booster ties in with what's going on with FlashPoint. I mean, it's all these amazing things that are kind of just going on all over the DC universe. Then there's team books that have got their own events. It's whatever you're reading right now, there's something going on, and that's fun. It should be like that. If you're a Green Lantern fan, you should feel like every issue of Green Lantern is exciting and an event. And not saying it's a big, earth-shattering, world-shattering event where, it's changes continuity or anything, but there should be something that makes you go, wow, I can't wait till next issue. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next month, 2 months from now, 3 months from now. And a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that these are creative teams that are getting nice, long runs on these particular books, the Green Lantern books. Tony Bedard's newer to the dance, I should say, but he's already showing his chops in books like Green Lantern Corps that we're going to be talking about in a couple seconds. And that's one of the things that I'm really liking is, that we're adding these new writers on to a great team in Johns and Tomasi and what they've been delivering. We got Peter Milligan coming on board doing Red Lantern. I mean, this is cool stuff and great art throughout the entire thing. So this is a win-win across the board. And that's where the excitement, I think, is generated. Great creative teams who have a lot of energy and a lot of great concepts. And we know that we're barely scratching the surface of where they're going to take us.
And you're talking just Green Lantern Corps, dude. This was an awesome issue.
It's 56.
Yeah,
issue number 56.
And I gotta tell you, man, this was. Sometimes when you read a comic, you got the action title, you got the action story going on where they play out, just a pure battle. You get the story-driven kind of moments. You maybe have a little personal character growth. For me, this one had almost it all. Because you had some great character moments, some great personalized moments. You really see a lot of these characters really knuckle up and throw down. But you had these great action sequences and a lot of just really cool, just Sinestro moments where just the opening, he summons them all in there. What is the punishment for the fool who tries to steal from me? Death, death, death. I was just like, oh god, this is going to be cool. Right from the opening, right from the get-go, I was kind of chuckling and just going, yes, this is going to be a throwdown. This is going to be, Pierce 6, slobber knocker. Really, really kind of great way to get you into the moment and just kind of, get me excited.
The dignity comment from him, I thought was very compelling and true to him. Because the position that this Quardian put him in, he was really trying to make Sinestro come and beg for his daughter's life. So it really wasn't, Sinestro really isn't looking at his daughter as being, the big affront. It really is, this guy wanted me to come and beg. This guy wanted me to come and be willing to come one-on-one alone because he wanted emotionally to break me down from this, and make me make mistakes because I broke down from it. I really liked that because that told a lot as being what Sinestro's motivation was here. And I do believe that Sinestro really was more ticked off that his dignity was being attacked and that he was put in that type of emotional position. I do think that there is genuine feelings there for his daughter. So I'm not, and I love that level, and we do see moments where it's kind of clear that that's there. But I do think more than that, he is genuinely ticked off that this guy would have the gall to try and summon Sinestro on his own accord like terms. That, and try to manipulate Sinestro, which is really what the Cordian's trying to do, what the Weaponeer's trying to do. And that was something that I really thought was an interesting distinction, and I think is very true to his character.
And I think at the same time, it also keeps the secret of the fact that Sornik Natu is his daughter from the rest of the Sinestro Corps.
Yeah, because that is his weakness.
Yeah.
If it could be properly exploited by one of these other, he has that fear of something happening to her. He won't admit it because he knows he can't admit it. So this is a great way for him to get them to go in. I really it was a cool. They showed up on the scene. They're ready just to throw down, and it wasn't just with the Weaponer. They're like, we're going to destroy this planet now. You had the gall to insult the mighty, to offend the mighty Sinestro. Your planet pays the price. And again, I was just like, I shouldn't be enjoying these villain moments, but I was, because it was just this great, villain kind of moment. But we talk about the rogues, how the rogues have the code. Well, we're seeing kind of a code in the Sinestro Corps as well, where it's not just about, killing people. There is a level beyond just killing them.
Well, see, and I took it to a completely different level too, though. They're agents of fear. And if you are going to you have the ability to create great fear, you aren't just going to go after the one guy that did the affront to you. What better way to cause great fear, not just amongst these people, but against everybody else, than to say, hey, you mess with us, not only are we going to come and get you, we're going to destroy your entire planet. Yeah. We're taking out all your people along with it, because they really weren't involved. It was the Weaponeer.
Yeah.
So by doing that, just saying, hey, look at what we're going to do to you, because you even had the gall to do this. We're going to destroy your friends, people who are not your friends, your enemies, everybody on your planet, no matter what your association with them, they're done.
And I love just the Weaponers, the Corrids looking at the Weaponer. You hear that? You killed us all. Kind of you did it to us again, knucklehead.
Well, I love his reaction because it's almost sympathetic that, he feels down that, this is just the ultimate put down for me, that I'm not even worth his time for him to show up. He looks at it completely differently.
And I do like the fact that when he releases the Green Lanterns and he's like, save my people. And, that was another moment into the mindset of the Weaponeer. He was doing all this to get Sinestro. He didn't want to kill these Green Lanterns, and he probably could have, seeing how much he had taken them down, how much he had them detained. It wasn't about killing them. He wanted to get Sinestro. He needed to fight Sinestro. I thought that was kind of a cool moment in there, and especially with this whole truce, because the Corps is saying, hey, Green Lanterns, you can leave. You're not going to like what you see. You don't have the stomach for what's about to happen. And they didn't want to break the truce, and that whole way around the truce was another cool kind of like story moment where they're like, okay, we can't use rings on each other, but we can go barehanded. We can, as long as we're not using
because
the power,
he went with barehanded with Sinestro,
right? And it was kind of a cool moment because the Sinestro Corps is like, hey, Sinestro said this was okay. The Lanterns are like, hey, Kyle did this and it was okay there. So they're each going to their own person saying, they said this was okay. This is not breaking the treaty as long as we don't use our ring power. Or the Trudy, or the Blair or Joe or
It was Tootie.
That was Tootie, not Trudy. Oh, I got my facts of life mixed up. Well, you take
Who's the housekeeper? Who's the housekeeper?
Well, that was Mrs. Garrett.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Edna Garrett. I remember that. God.
Okay, let's I don't know how you got onto the facts of life from that, but you thought Trudy was Tootie.
I thought Trudy was Tootie, so sorry.
I love the defensive posturing, though, between them. That before they realized that in order to keep from breaking the treaty, they kept putting up defenses to say, hey, let's do everything we can to keep these people as shielded as possible.
And I kind of liked even, you look at the drawings of the different shields, like Ganthet's is a giant, Green Lantern symbol. John kind of has, I'd say, like a Roman, kind of those big, huge Roman curved shields. What's her name? The Alpha Lanterns kind of has a, I'd say her faceplate, it kind of looks like giant version of these shields. They're personal. Again, I always dig it when they, in the Lantern comics, they personalize the story. They personalize their constructions to the actual Lantern themselves. I always dig, and it's our team just taking a little bit of time. They could have done a big giant wall or a big green energy, but they just took that little extra effort to kind of make it, boom, personalized.
Well, that's Tyler Kirkham, Bat with Rob Hunter on inks, Nia Ruffino on colors. And boy, is this a really good art team on this book. It was funny, I took a couple issues to adjust just because I was so used to the artwork that was coming previously on this title. But once I did, woo.
Yeah. Oh,
what a pretty book.
One of the things I, continue on with just more of the story until we have these cool action sequences when the Sinestro Corps is just destroying these people and the Lanterns are getting him inside because inside the armory, he's got weapons that can keep up with the Sinestro Corps. And he's like, go in there, arm yourself, and and it was just one of those cool kind of moments where improvise, adapt, overcome. We talk about heroes doing that. We're seeing a quasi-villain kind of, one of those middle, the ground characters with the weapon here. Is he, you could argue either side very easily, whether he's evil or whether he's good, whether, what's his motivation behind it. So you're kind of seeing that whole improvisation going on there. And I thought that was, again, a cool thing throughout this story where it's not just, big, pictures of, big giant fists pounding on each other. There's a little bit more detail, more, of the adventure and the action kind of aspect. It's the chaos the chaotic nature that is warfare. We're seeing that again throughout this, and it's story as well as art working together.
I don't take him as evil because I don't think he has evil intentions. I think he has a different motivation than them, and I guess that's where you become a bad guy versus an evil person. Is he a bad guy or is he a villain?
Yeah.
And I guess, I kind of see a distinction between the two when we're talking about that. Because a bad guy makes bad choices, whereas a villain is evil. And they're not bad choices. That's how they're wired. and they're going to keep doing that. And there was no other choice. That was what they were going to do.
That whole sequence speaks to the characters of the Green Lanterns because they're in such a tenuous position under such intense fire. And how do you keep up your own oath of protecting people at the same time you can't take on the people that are attacking the people you're trying to protect?
Yeah, defensive position is hard, especially if you're looking and you can't fire back and you can't do it. You just have to protect. It's protection detail like with Secret Service kind of stuff. The easiest way to protect the president would be not allow anybody near him. Keep a 200-yard radius and no one gets near him. Well, you can't do that. So you got to be vigilant. You got to do the positioning and the structuring. And here we're seeing them throw up their shields and blocking. And they're not, easiest thing for them to do would be to fire back, take out some of their hitters, and put an offensive together. The whole, best offense is, best defense is a strong offense kind of deal. But they can't do that. They have to just start, looking. And again, it's that whole improvisation. How can we fight back without breaking the treaty? And I love seeing this logic on how they're able to do it, and especially Rock Dude. I always forget his name.
Hanu.
Thank you. I like just seeing how he was happy that I can as long as I can punch him, I'm happy because he.
What's his name?
I didn't hear. Okay.
You're like, thank you. I'm like, he didn't hear that.
I really hate you. You know me too well, and that's why I kept going quickly. Run through the point, Jim. Maybe Sean didn't catch on. No, okay. This time, what's his name again, please?
Hanu.
Okay. Here's the thing. I actually heard like "Amen." I'm like, okay. I didn't hear the H. I heard like
I
Anu
totally
or
saw it too.
Ami.
You're like, what on? You're like, I'm like, the light's on and nobody's home on this one. He's going on like he's gonna slip out through. I'm like, there's no way I'm letting this go.
Well, you let the fact go that in Emerald Warriors, I didn't know who was the female Lantern. I had no idea. I always draw a blank on her name.
Arisha?
Yeah, I always draw a blank on her name, and I kept going, them and this, and then I got that one passed.
Yeah.
I was hoping I could get this one.
Well, this was different because you specifically asked.
Yeah.
Because you said the name for the rock dude. And the Arisha one, I knew you just didn't know who Arisha... Because I think you would have to have had a history with Arisha into... I guess, are you taking this, Myron, as Arisha's continuity's been rebooted? Is this the same Arisha who used to date Hal?
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Okay.
she artificially aged herself because in her civilization they aged differently, and she was really much older than she physically looked. Mm-hmm. And so her willpower aged her. And I still see this as the same person, but she's obviously gone on and moved on from that love of Hal. I think there's still something there, but I think she's gotten over it.
Because I really liked that era where Hal dated her. I thought it
Yeah,
was
I did
kind of
too.
great to see her, him with a lantern from a different culture. And I always really, really enjoyed that. It's one of those, but I agree with you, it's one of those histories. It's kind of like the way I look at Dick Grayson and Starfire now.
Yeah.
Like that was an era, and I loved when Dick was with Starfire. I thought that was something that worked, but it's something that's kind of went its course. I'm not saying that a writer couldn't resurrect it again, just like a writer could really resurrect Hal and Arisha. It's just not something that I see as very likely, especially right now. It could
We
be
haven't really seen them interact a whole lot.
right, exactly. And obviously where Starfire is right now in Rebels, we're not going to see her interacting a lot with Dick Grayson, who's in Gotham.
I do hope that when they do get a chance to interact, that they kind of play off of that a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too, because that's an opportunity that I think the story has to lend itself to that. But I'm with you. I would like to see it.
See, I think, you look at Hal with everything going on with him, and he's got his whole stuff going on with Carol, with Cowgirl. I don't think there you can add another one into the mix. Granted, it's Hal, but he's changed a little bit. He's not as much a womanizer as he was. So I would see those two getting together, and it would be that whole friendship. It's the romance is over. There's now a friendship, a respect, maybe kind of that type of deal. Not any type of sexual, or physical, issue and or problem.
Yeah, I don't want to see them hook up again, but I do want to see them make sure that continuity between those two characters is kept, and that relationship at least is acknowledged in some way, even if it's just a look or a brief conversation or a snide comment.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking for too. I agree with you. Boudica is somebody who I think is being an Alpha Lantern, then coming back from that edge, that brink, and being kind of like this hybrid now. I'm really loving her story.
Yeah.
And Seeker's a warrior saying, "Hey, I want to stand behind you. I'm here for you. I'm going to help. I want to be a part of this fight with my comrades." For so long, I was away from who I am, and being told that she can't because of that.
Yeah, that's
because of those limitations, that she's a constant power battery, constantly be turned on. And then Kyle having to then go toe-to-toe with Arkillo is...
Yeah, that's a tough fight,
Yeah.
Kyle is tough, and I give him full props, but he got no shot against Arkillo. Arkillo is just the...
Not in a fist fight.
Yeah, not in a fist fight. A ring battle, yeah, they could go toe-to-toe and he could probably take him because Kyle does have that focus. But when you're going bare-knuckle brawling, my money's on Arkillo. Sorry, buddy.
Well, that's not Arkillo, though. That's Bragunza.
Oh, okay. Wait. Yeah, because Arkillo... Wait, that's right. Arkillo was...
Yeah, Arkillo got blasted by the castle.
Right.
They got sent it the next Tuesday. Okay.
You're right.
Wait, that panel with Hanu is nice, though, where he's leaping at the guy and punching him. That's a pretty page.
Speaking on the next page over, Sinestro.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on in this issue. One of the things that I really love about it is just the sheer amount of different lanterns from both corps that are being featured throughout this whole thing, a lot of whom I don't know. In the sense that I know them because we've been seeing them, but, I don't know the whole Sinestro Corps. I know that they're members of them because of their fancy outfits, but I don't know like who's who and their hierarchies. I actually, it's one of the things I'd love to go back through and reread again, just kind of the Sinestro
to learn
Corps
the names
War
and learn who they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I'm interested and intrigued enough to, if I find time, to eventually sit down and do that.
You can't tell a Yellow Lantern without a playbook.
It's funny to look at that picture of Hanu punching that guy with the word whack behind him.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I keep hearing it's clobbering time in the back of my head.
Oh,
Yeah. He's definitely got that kind of vibe to him. The Weaponeer, when Sinestro shows up, I really liked how the white entity, not the white entity, but the white shield, that thing that he's crafted for himself as a kind of a way to create new weapons, has totally adapted to making this super large, specialized gun that is only focused for Sinestro. And Sinestro's reaction to it saying, hey, you don't understand, I've worn that ring. I've worn the green ring. I've worn this yellow ring. And one thing I've come to understand over time, it is not the power, it's the person that wields it. And that is just that moment of confidence with him. There are moments where he is just plain cool. This is a moment where he is just plain cool.
When he steps into the trap and intentionally just walks across it and lets it crunch on him.
Yeah, because that would have been like a trap that would have trapped any of the other lanterns because they got caught up and stuff like that. But Sinestro just shrugs it off, and I thought because it comes chunking down on him, but no, it's like okay, brush that off, and he's just throwing down, and he is taking out this Weaponeer. If it wasn't for outside interference and whatnot, he probably would have dropped them right then and there, and this fight would have been over really quickly. And it shows the power of Sinestro, just the focus and the coolness behind him. Now, I really wonder if because Hal and him have gone toe-to-toe, and they have equal level of abilities. Could Hal have done the same type of stuff as Sinestro did against the Weaponeer?
In a different way. It wouldn't have looked the same. I do think so.
It would have been green.
Yeah, but no, not even just the green. I mean, I think the way Hal carries himself is different than Sinestro.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, there would have been a huge... I know you were joking, but I mean, there would have been a huge visual difference to what it looks like, because Hal will never carry himself the way Sinestro does. He'd have to be Sinestro in order for that to happen.
He'd make like a giant bear step in the trap or something.
Yeah.
I tell you, whenever John armors up in the green and he does the full Marine Corps with the sniper rifle and he goes back, I always have a hoorah kind of moment. This ending where he's got the big gun, he's got actual armor on, and again, it's John Stewart is such a cool character.
We just got here.
Oh yeah, retreat. We just got here. I'm like, yes, this guy is such a cool lantern. He, it's every time I see him, every time I see a good usage of him, I'm always giving big hoorahs and just excitement behind the character.
As much as I liked Guy and Kyle together, I'm really glad they brought John into the book and gave him a place to really shine.
100% agree.
Amen.
He's a great character who needs a spotlight, and if he's not going to be, prominently featured like on a Justice League book, I think when they originally brought him in Hal's book, it made sense. But I think over time it's become really obvious that he just doesn't. There's not enough for him to do there. That book needs to be more about Hal. So this is the perfect spot for him, and they're handling him very well. That is one of the great things about there being 3 books right now, is these Earthbound lanterns can shift between one book and the other as needed. If there comes a point where there's, like, for example, if Kyle takes a backseat in this book, there'd be an opportunity to do something different with him in Emerald Warriors. So each writer has an opportunity to pull these characters away for different purposes. So, wow. I mean, these Green Lantern books, I'm going to say one thing. I don't really have one of them that's a favorite anymore. I think, to me, they're all essential reading for me. I need the whole experience. Do you have one that's a favorite? I don't.
Right now, Green Lantern Corps is above the other two, and the only reason why is because of this whole battle, this whole dealings with Sinestro that's been going on over these past couple issues. So it's basically story arc driven. I'm digging all the stories, and I'm really chomping at them.
You think
this one
that's
just
better?
has a little bit for me.
You think that's better than what's going on with like Guy and Kilowog and Arisian?
I know it just
and then Sodom Yacht.
Yeah, I know, and it's
I think to me, that what I'm saying is, I was trying to come up with for myself which one's my favorite book right now. Then you look over and what's going on with the Butcher over in the Green Lantern book. I'm like, ooh, how do you... I guess I don't know how I could pick. Because that whole Butcher issue and what it did with, Atrocitus and showing that whole world and what that character's all about. And this wasn't even really Hal focused. This is all about Atrocitus. I'm like, I was completely compelled by every issue out of these last three.
And I'm agreeing with you. And I had that same kind of reaction. It just, I don't know, there was just something about this one that just put it just that one little above the others. And it's even hard for me to kind of explain. Part of it is, I think, seeing these cool Sinestro moments.
Yeah.
And
they're great. You're right.
For me, again, it's this for me is really a lot more of the development of Sinestro, a lot more of some of the stuff I saw in the Sinestro Corps War. The others are great stories, and I'm digging it. And it's I'm just excited about them. But just that I think it's because of this Sinestro story arc is why I got that little above it. Now next,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah,
hold on. I'm not saying you're wrong. I guess I was explaining my position.
Yeah, I know. I
wasn't like saying. Geez,
I'm just saying why I'm.
Yeah, I wasn't saying I wasn't saying you were like an idiot for liking what's going on with Sinestro. You're right. It's cool. I get it. I'm totally with you. Myron, what about you?
I'd be hard-pressed to pick a favorite book, and I've almost gotten to the point where I don't think about them as 3 different books. I think about them as one book that comes out 3 times a month.
That's why I guess I said the weekly comment that I said earlier. I think it's one big experience to me now. And Jim, you're not wrong for feeling the way you are. You said it was it just edged it out for you. And Sinestro, I get why the Sinestro thing was cool. It's really interesting because I used to be the one that I had definite by the time we were done, a definite, and I think that's where it's changed for me. I don't now. I get excited. I look for green when I get my my weekly box, I should say. I start looking for Green Lantern Corps, whatever books coming out that week, and I'm just really digging it. Brightest Day, I don't know why I still consider that a Green Lantern book, but I do. I think because it's spun out of Blackest Night, but realistically, it's more of a DC Universe book. Right now. I don't take it as. I guess the White Lantern is an interesting twist too that obviously links it to the Green Lantern universe. So I don't know. It's cool. Myron, Blog of Oa. Please tell our listeners who, if they aren't reading it, shame on them. What is the Blog of Oa?
Well, Green Lantern and specifically Hal Jordan was very important to me as a kid. I have a birth defect. I've had a lot of health issues. And the Green Lantern character, to me, it helped me find inner strength when I really needed it at certain times in my life. So when I started listening to Raging Bullets, I got really kind of enthused by how excited you guys are about comics. And I thought, a couple years ago, about a year ago, it was the 50th anniversary for Green Lantern. It was about time that maybe I did something to be an ambassador for that mythos that was so important to me. So I started the Blog of Oa as kind of an experiment. And to be honest, I thought maybe I'd only do it for a year because I figured nobody would be looking at it, nobody would be reading it. A year later, I'm getting some pretty good traffic on the site. I get about 500 hits a day, so it's kind of become something I really enjoy doing. And so I'm trying to become a portal for Green Lantern news, information about different products that are coming out because there's so much merchandising right now, comic book reviews, video game reviews, stuff about the movies, all that stuff, the animated show, and trying to become just kind of a clearinghouse for information and opinions on what's going on in the Green Lantern universe and all the various ways it's being used in the media.
That's awesome. Myron, I really want to thank you for joining us once again, and we'll definitely have to do this again soon, sir.
Well, as always, thank you for inviting me to be on the show. I have a good time every time I'm on, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
All right. We will talk to you soon, my friend.
Take it easy, man.
You take care, guys.
Like a human helicopter, the Flash rotates his body, rising faster, faster!
As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, don't forget to check out Brightest Day number 23, $2.99 regularly, 40% off only $179. And Brightest Day number 24, $4.99 regularly, 40% off, only $2.99. Remember, you can get the variant editions as well. That's issue number 23, the variant edition is $4, and issue number 24, the variant edition is $5. It's great if you collect variant editions to be able to pre-order them at a discounted price like that and lock in the chance to get those variant editions if you collect them. I know Jim picks and chooses the variant editions. I do as well. It depends on the artist that's going to be on them. But I think it's great that you have an opportunity to pre-order them. And over at InStockTrades.com, check out the Brightest Day hardcover Volume 1 collecting issues 0 through 7 of this great event. Regularly $29.99, 38% off, only $18.59. And I want to remind you, with InStockTrades.com, orders of $50 or more gives you free shipping. I just recently placed an order. When we had Freddie Williams on, he was talking about some of the changes that he made to the JSA All-Stars trade paperback. I ended up getting that. And the 2 most recent Walking Dead hardcovers. I've been collecting that series in hardcover because they do like the whole year in hardcover format. So I got those 2, and that ended up bumping me over the $50 mark, and I got free shipping. So it's kind of a cool way to do that. So if there's been a couple of things you've been looking to get, you get the discount that In Stock Trades is offering, but then also free shipping, which I think is very cool, because in this day and age, we can all afford to save a buck or 2 here or there. So thank you, DCBService.com for the pre-orders and InStockTrades.com for the great collected editions. Our next episode, we're going to take a look at a bunch of current comics that have been released over the past couple weeks. I don't know quite what books yet. It's kind of fun because Jim and I, we just kind of chat on the phone, and we're just going to grab some books that we were kind of passionate about over the past couple weeks, or some books that we felt like we haven't, revisited in a while on the show as well. So it'll be kind of a mixture of those type of books. I love chatting the current comics. We did a couple interview episodes lately, so we want to get back into the comics right now and kind of chat about those as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I want to thank once again Myron Rumsey from the blog of OA for joining us. We always have a great time talking to Myron. Jim, we will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, talking about Hawkman.